Hi, everybody. Dugroz here with Dugroz Nostalgia. You're watching part 3 of the breakdown of my family's summer 2025 vacation to Europe. And if you haven't watched parts 1 and 2 yet, this won't make a whole lot of sense. So check the description box for a link to take you back and watch that. But we'll dive right on in and pick up where I had left off. When we left off, we were repositioning from Manchester in the United Kingdom to Vienna, Austria, with a layover in Amsterdam. And one thing that was a small bummer was that KLM, the Royal Dutch Airline, actually lost 2 out of our 4 bags, which we decided to check, so we didn't want to carry them on. So that was kind of a bummer. My wife and one of my boys had to do with a lot less clothes for the first almost 2 days, but they did get the bags back to us before we flew out. It was only 3 days. We repositioned on Friday and had to leave back for the States on Monday. So Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. Here's us flying over, I think, the English Channel, but don't quote me on that. And then we arrive in Vienna. Now, Vienna is a very cool-looking, historic European city, in my opinion. There were some parts that were really nice and upscale, others that had seen better days. You could probably say that about a lot of places. We walked through a park close to where we stayed, and there's a statue here for one of the famous classical composers. I don't remember which one it was. Maybe Strauss. Someone can yell at me in the comments if I have that wrong. Walked by this building with some really cool statues, and my boys are kind of halfway imitating that. There was a cathedral. I think it's St. Stephen's Cathedral. Again, don't quote me on that, in the middle of town. Thought about going up in it, but it just didn't work out schedule-wise. And here's me on the outside. One fun thing we got to do on our first, I don't remember if it was our first day or first full day, was get ice cream at a little ice cream shop there in Vienna. Most of the people in the service industry spoke English pretty well. The lady at the ice cream stand, very, very little English. There's a lot of pointing, but we got through it. That's totally fine. There was this cool statue of some mermen holding up some important looking people. And like I said, there's a few parts that were a little less than desirable. And one of them is a very different smoking culture, in my opinion, than what I find here in America. Cigarette vending machines. I haven't seen those since I was a kid back in the 80s. Lots of ashtrays laying around. Our fun activity on Sunday, I think it was our last full day, was to go to the Schönbrunn Palace. It might have been Saturday, actually. I don't remember which day. That's not important. This was the royal summer palace of the ruling family. I believe it was the Habsburg line. Really cool place. And we had a guided semi-private tour in English. I say semi-private because there's only 2 families in the group, our family and then another family of 4 who was actually from Spain originally, but had lived in the United States for several years. On the inside, this is after we've been given some introductory information. We're waiting for the official check-in, take the tour process, and we got these cool earpieces that make you feel like you're in the CIA or the Secret Service or something like that. Inside some portions of the ground floor was this tile, which I really liked. And you would think it's marble or stone, but no, it's actually wood. It's like a extremely polished wood in 6-sided shapes. Yeah, I think those are called hexagons. Is that right? That sounds right. You get further in, it has everything you would expect to find in a palace, including frescoes painted on the ceilings, giant chandeliers, 24-karat gold leafing on all the fixtures. Waiting for the tour guide to walk us through a certain part. There's me and one of my sons. And here's another angle of the ceilings and the big rooms and such. Here's a painting of Napoleon's son, who, if I remember correctly, died in his youth, who for some reason spent portions of his summers here at the palace. There was an interesting dichotomy between the people who lived in the palace and the staff. This item here is a fireplace, but you notice there's no place to put the wood. That's because you load the wood from the other side and you just feel the radiant heat coming off. I think it's porcelain or something along those lines. In the walls, there was these kind of secret back alley corridors for the staff, and this is a modern representation of that using mannequins. But you can see the door there, and there's kind of this narrow hallway just for the staff members, and then they would load the wood in from the other side, because you don't want to see people stoking the fire if you're mega wealthy aristocrats. You can see kind of a fake door built in here, right there, the frame of a door. That's for the staff to slip through. Then after touring the inside of the palace, we went back outside, got to appreciate some of the architecture and really cool statues on the ceiling. There are extensive gardens and grounds. This individual here, this lady with the neon pink skirt, was our tour guide. She did a fantastic job. Here she is explaining something. Another interesting fountain. That boy is not my son. That's just a random boy that was in the tour group. Well, the son of the other family. Explaining something little. Lots of statues all over the place. Here's a dude who I guess is a hunter and cut the head off of a boar. And they had a big old fountain out there, so I posed by that. Just more views of the palace. This was sort of our main activity when we were in Austria, only being there 3 nights, 2 full days, basically Saturday and Sunday, if you count the travel days. Monday, we basically just woke up and flew out. There wasn't much to do. Rode the subway basically everywhere in Vienna. There was no need for us to have a rental car. One thing I really liked about their subway system is you get around based on the honor system. So you have an app on your phone, and you just load it with, the number of trips you're taking. And there's probably different ways you can do it, but the way that we chose was a flat rate. So every trip was the same amount. I don't remember what it was. One thing that was a little I wasn't sure what the right thing to do is let's say you're going from point A to point B. Here, I'll expand the screen. You're going from point A to point B, getting off, looking around, then going from B to C. Does that count as 1 trip or 2? There was one time we did that, and I only counted it as 1 trip. And I'm like, oh, I hope I didn't rip off the Austrians. Here's my son riding the subway. I thought that was kind of a neat picture. That night, the night we toured the palace, we went back to the hotel, and I had Hilton credits to polish off. One was on my wife's business platinum, and one was on something else, probably either a gift card or Hilton Surpass. And I'm like, doggone it, we're eating at the restaurant. I don't care how expensive it is. And it ended up being literally the most expensive meal my family has ever eaten in our life. And I know some people probably balk at that, it can't be that expensive. I think it was around $225 US, $250, something like that, for a family of 4. But again, we were able to use some Hilton credits, knock some of that off. I take that back. I think it was low 200s, like 210, something like that. There's a Dude Perfect Stereotypes video about little food, big price. It did feel that way a little bit. Here's your starter salad, which is probably close to $20. But they did have ice, which was a huge bonus and at a premium, because us Americans love ice and can't get enough of it. Had that with my Coca-Cola Wiener Madel. And there's one of the dishes. I think that's what my wife got. Don't quote me on that. And then one of my boys and I split this rack of lamb. I'm pretty sure it was a rack of lamb, at least based on what I'm remembering. And then the next morning we had the Hilton breakfast, which was free because we're gold members. And that was a little more my style. I like free. That's my kind of price. Bacon, sausage, waffles, donuts. They even had a big vat of mushrooms covered in a buttery sauce. I guess you'd call them sauteed mushrooms. And that's what one of our selections looked like. I don't remember if that was mine or my kids. I think the one on the left is mine. The one on the right, I'm not sure. Selection of milks. You have almond milk, regular milk. I think there was goat milk. Here's what the hotel looked like from the outside. It was called the Vienna Hilton Park, or Park Hilton Vienna, something like that. Not to be confused with a Park Hyatt, because it was close to a park, that same park that had the statue of the dude playing the violin. Here's what it looked like out the window. I don't remember if this was the window of our room. I don't think it was. I think this was out the window of a room halfway up. Ours was a little closer to the top. That's what it looked like. You can see this green area over here. That's the park that I was referencing. Connecting rooms. One thing I love about Hilton is the guaranteed connecting rooms. 2 twin beds for the boys and a king-size bed for my wife and I. Of course, Austria is on a different voltage than us Americans are, and different than the English, so I had to use a different set of converters. Kind of like these round ones. They kind of snap in with kind of a perfect fit, snappy feel. The next day, which was our last full day, so we must have toured the palace on Saturday then. We went to the Danube River. Na 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 na, bum 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 bum. We just rode the subway there. Interestingly, we got off at the wrong stop at a canal, which I thought was the river, and it was maybe only like 50 feet wide and kind of slightly trashy with graffiti. I'm like, well, this is a huge disappointment. Then I looked at my phone, the map on my phone, and I'm like, oh, no, this isn't it. This is the river, the one that's in the picture. That is the actual blue Danube. You can see in the previous picture, there's like a cruise type ship, a river cruise ship there in the river, and there was several of them docked up. There's the whole family, obviously. There was this random tree growing out of like one of those little like rectangles in the sidewalk that's room for trees. And the sun was really hot and beating down that day. And it reminded me, if you are a Jew or a Christian, you're probably familiar with the story of Jonah from the Bible. And when he went to Nineveh, there was a leafy plant or a leafy tree, depending on how that verse is interpreted, that shaded the sun. But later God taught him a lesson by having a caterpillar eat the tree. And this reminded me of that for some reason. So I'm calling it the Jonah tree, right next to the Danube River, right next to the Danube River there in Vienna, Austria. Another picture on the subway, reflecting in the window. Here's a treat shop. Where do you think this was at? Some upscale cafe, a little ma and pa store? Nope. This was McDonald's. So apparently at the McDonald's in Vienna, or at least this one, which was in the subway and transit station right across the street from the hotel, they sell cheesecake and brownies and strawberry shortcake and donuts. Lots of fun things. A Himbeer donut. That night we went bowling, and the bowling alley served milkshakes. Now the milkshake was a little different than what I was expecting. If you're used to like a McDonald's milkshake that's kind of this thick thing that's basically like drinking ice cream, this was more like a cup of milk with 1 scoop of ice cream in it, a little whipped cream on top. So it was good, but not quite what I was expecting. So there's one boy bowling with a milkshake, other boy bowling. Had to contend with the sign there in the bowling alley that had no English interpretation for the bathrooms. Oh, which one do I use? Well, the word dame sounds kind of like a nickname for woman, and I know now that one of my YouTube watchers is named Herr Muntz, like Mr. Muntz, so I figured go to the right for the men. And about that time, a guy walked out, so I was able to get confirmation that my theory was correct. Have you ever seen a toilet stall this clean in a bowling alley? They did have super clean bathrooms, which I appreciated. They had these really cool like spinny chairs in the lobby with like this 70s or late 60s kind of psychedelic vibe in the background. After we left there, it was starting to rain. We went back to the hotel, freshened up, and then went out for supper. And we accidentally went to the wrong restaurant. We were going to walk down this alley, and there's like a restaurant inside a little ma and pa hotel. But when we entered the alley, there was these guys saying, hello, hello, come on in, come on in. And we walked in like, oh, this must be where we're going. Nope, it was some other restaurant entirely. So they kind of swindled isn't exactly the right word, but convinced us to come in when we weren't planning on it. Weisgerber Straub. That's just my best guess. I do have actual Austrian ancestry, but the German language did not trickle down to me here in the 5th or 6th generation, whatever that is. This is the inside. Great place. It was warm. There was no air conditioning. I had a chicken cordon bleu, which was utterly delicious. And there's me with one of my boys. And then on the outside of the hotel is this statue dude who got shot by a bunch of arrows. Here's Hofer, which sure looks like Aldi to me. Interestingly, on Sundays, everything in Austria is closed as far as retail. It's like a national law. So the whole losing the suitcase thing was super inconvenient because if we didn't get it Saturday morning, we didn't have access to it. We had to get some dry cleaning. I did wrangle back and forth. Eventually, KLM did restore us financially. We had to buy a few things, but got it to work. Part of the reason we had to get dry cleaning is because everything's closed on Sunday. There's no clothing stores. Another view of the park out the window on that rainy-ish day. And here's the lobby of the hotel and us getting ready to head out the last morning. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got all 4 suitcases. Hey, good day, good day. So we flew on Austrian Airlines from Vienna to Munich, Germany on this plane right here. And then after a good long layover, I don't remember how long, let's say 4 or 5 hours, we got on the big boy, the Airbus A380 operated by Lufthansa. This is the largest commercial jet currently in use. So it's a double decker and we flew business class. So we got to be on the top deck. Here's my wife looking out the window. Here's what the flight looked like at some point. I don't remember when. And then arriving for customs, Washington Dulles Airport. Holy cow, that was not a super fun experience, but took about an hour to get out. A Sonesta ES Suites, extended stay suites, was our one-night stay. There are no flights directly from Washington Dulles to Des Moines. We had to reposition to Washington National, also known as Washington Reagan. Spent the night before doing that. This was part of our Sonesta Suites. Woke up, went to the Reagan Airport, stopped by a Capital One landing, which was my wife's favorite lounge, probably mine too of our whole trip. That last trip from Washington, D.C. to Des Moines was smooth as glass, no problems whatsoever. Here's my family sitting over here in the booth, kind of a panoramic shot of what it looks like. It feels more like a restaurant. You get assigned a seat. Player 2 and myself. We got ice cream. Boarded an American flight to head directly from Washington, D.C. back to Des Moines, Iowa, home sweet home. So that is it. That's my trip, and I'm sticking to it. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to know how I paid for all of this on a net basis, paying zero, go check out my other channel, Dugroz Reports. I'll put a link down below. Once my review video is made, there will also be a video here on the end screen, a link taking you to that video so you can see how my family and I were able to afford something that we normally would not be able to afford, thanks to the magic of points and miles. Well, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Bye.